Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 201 of the funnel sales pipeline meeting. Before we get started, just a reminder, head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel and subscribe to the funnel, and we will send you the show notes weekly. That comes out every Thursday morning, 9 o'clock. East Coast time here in the U.S. I know we have some overseas listeners, so you'll most likely get it later in the evening. Today's agenda definition, we're going to define the pipeline meeting. We're going to talk about the role data plays in the pipeline meeting. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of the pipeline review, and we'll talk about the outcome. Before we jump into the definition, though, I do want to mention some of the pitfalls I see in the meetings that occur weekly in sales departments around the country. Most of the time, the weekly meeting occurs on Monday morning. So everyone's fresh off the weekend. They're coming in early to the office. They sit down in a meeting, and they start going over as a team, most of the time as a team. They kind of cover the basics, maybe a little training. Then they discuss the numbers, the forecast. What are you going to do? Maybe you discuss the activities from last week, your sales activities. Then you talk about the opportunities, what you closed, what you're going to close. Maybe you peel back the layers a little bit on percentage. Where am I in the process of this? Where are you 90%? Are you 80%? You start peeling back the layers on it. Some reps get questioned quite a bit extensively on their opportunities. Others, it might be a cursory question or explanation. And what you've done with this is you've combined the pipeline and the forecast meeting. And your frequency of forecast meeting, right, is every week. And you're touching on some of the deals. And then maybe you get in a one-on-one and you go over those deals again, the ones that are going to close this month. And you ignore the bigger picture or the longer term. You just want to know what we're going to get now. It's the last week of the month, or it's what are we going to close this month? The pitfalls associated with that are, one, sales reps are hesitant to disclose anything they're working on that could potentially put them in harm's way, right? We all know those salespeople that put an opportunity into the pipeline when they know it's going to close. Or you have sales reps that are giving you information based on how they feel. They like me. I think they're going to buy. They've done it this way before. Not a whole lot of strategy behind it, just a whole lot of feelings. So I'm going to tell you, we break the pipeline from the forecast meeting because they're two distinct meetings. Yes, there is some overlap in certain areas, but they are different meetings. So what is a pipeline meeting? Pipeline meeting is a discussion of all prospects at all stages of your sales cycle, whether you're at the beginning or the end of the process, discussing your company, qualifying, doing a webinar or a demonstration, presenting your proposals, and that goes all the way through the future. Now, I'd stop at unqualified opportunities, your outreach, whether that's through LinkedIn, social selling, inbound leads might qualify for the pipeline because they're inbound. But your outbound outreach, however you do that, do they belong in the sales pipeline? We'll talk about that in a second. So think about it like this. If you're discussing the health of the pipeline and you're discussing how you can improve your chances of winning a deal, and you're talking about each stage of the pipeline or opportunity, that's a pipeline meeting. That's a definition of a pipeline meeting. When you're getting into percentages and closes, that's not a pipeline meeting. That's a forecast meeting. Next, the data. Where does data come into the pipeline meeting? Well, I'll tell you this. The data plays a pretty big role, and hopefully you're managing that data or working towards that. And you're out of the spreadsheet world and into a CRM that's sales enabled. In other words, sales reps are willing to use it. They like using it because it's easy and it helps them more than it helps you. That's the definition in my mind of a good CRM. It's not about management dashboards, but data is very important to the pipeline review. Why is it important? Well, for one, there are activities that need to be done to build a healthy pipeline. So you're going to be looking at that to make sure that those activities are met. You may have weekly meetings with your rep where you're talking about the activity levels and those numbers and the metrics, and you should. Focusing on metrics is really important. But if the metrics and activities aren't being met, then the pipeline's not going to be healthy enough. So there has to be some level of accountability to that. You have to make sure that you're looking at that data to make sure that they are on target. The other thing you look at in the pipeline is conversion rates, right? You get healthy opportunities into the pipeline. Well, what's the conversion rate when it first becomes a lead to maybe a qualified opportunity and so on? And that's different per rep. Why is that important? Well, it's going to show you red flags, right? Places where they get stuck. There might be some reps out there that are very good at uncovering opportunities, but very bad at getting them out the other end of the funnel based on maybe their qualifying skills. So you're going to spend some extra time coaching them on that. You're going to try to work on that. So those metrics not only help you define the health and well-being of your pipeline, it also helps you set a blueprint for helping your sales reps and coaching your sales reps. So the data plays an important role here. It plays an important role through the process, from the pipeline to the forecast. It kind of leads into creating what I call a healthy pipeline. So what are you doing in the pipeline? Okay, once you have that data, you're helping them evaluate the opportunities, right? You're helping them understand the good deals, understand the bad deals, and you're brainstorming the actions or opportunities or whatever it is that you have to do to get more out of that pipeline. You might even be brainstorming activities to get more into the pipeline. It's okay in the pipeline review to have that conversation. Not everything has to be separate. But what I just said is really important, getting the bad deals out and keeping the good deals in. We all go down the rabbit hole of deals we shouldn't get involved with, and it ends up costing us time and money. So we want to make sure we pull those bad deals out and we focus on only those deals that we know are good. Again, that's where data comes in, right? Conversion rates, maybe industry type, meetings, etc. So my advice would be to focus on that. In the beginning, the pipeline's going to thin out a bit. That's okay. You close more business, trust me. Keep in mind that a good pipeline review requires some foundational stuff. So we talked about the data. Next thing is the sales process. A milestone-centric sales process is critical to having good pipeline reviews because you're benchmarking against the process. The prospect has to meet certain criteria to move to the next step in the process. You have to hit certain benchmarks. Why is the process important? Because it aligns to how your prospects buy. So you can ask the right questions, document the right information, and move it to the next stage. Let's say the sales rep's in a qualifying stage and there's certain criteria to be met and that hasn't been met yet. What do? You move it back in the pipeline. Ultimately, what does that do for them and you? It puts them where they should be. It gives them a clear understanding of what they have to do to meet the objectives for the next meeting and the meetings afterward. And it ultimately impacts the accuracy of the forecast because only good stuff is moving out of the pipeline into the forecast. Well, it's still in the pipeline, but out of the pipeline review into the forecast meeting. So you have to ask the really difficult questions of your reps. There's a process for doing that. What's the client's decision-making process? Benchmark your questions against the sales process. Do you know every step that they take in purchasing? When do they want this implemented? It's a time frame. Do you know who the decision makers are? Have you identified the business need? I'm going through all this stuff. And I'm asking them all these questions in each opportunity, with each opportunity in the pipeline. And I'm peeling back the layers. And in the beginning, especially with reps that aren't used to this or where they're new, or even senior reps who've lived on feeling forever, there might be a little bit of discomfort. But if they know you're going to question all of this, they're going to be much more prepared. And I'm going to mention that. Be prepared. Look at the dashboard. Look at the opportunities before you go into the meeting. Take notes. I would advise you to put notes in the CRM about what they need to do next, so it's right there. For example, I use the HubSpot CRM, right? So let's say you have an opportunity in the funnel. I can open it up. I can look at all their deals and activities before the pipeline meeting. I sit down with the rep. We have the conversation about what they need to do next. You put a little note in there. It's right under the deal. In the CRM, they can see what they have to do next. And there's a note associated with it. And just say, listen, make sure you take care of this. And oh, by the way, document it in the CRM. It's not that hard. So the next time you have a pipeline meeting, you remember what you talked about last time. This is all about the rep, the pipeline review. It's not about you. It's about them. It's about helping them to move opportunities forward. The meeting should be, in my opinion, individual. If you bring the whole team in for a pipeline review, you could spend hours in there wasting everybody's time. So I have to sit through 2 hours of Jeff's pipeline meeting with 5 salespeople. It's too long. I know companies that do that, and it's mind-numbing. Well, they'll learn from each other and blah, 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 blah. No, they won't. There's a time for that. This is really about you one-on-one, my opinion. You might have a meeting where you say, hey, bring 3 of your pipeline deals to the meeting that we're going to discuss. Give it to me. And then you bring everybody together and you have this sort of coaching training session. That's great. But every time you do a pipeline meeting, wow. So what's the frequency of your pipeline review? I'd say twice a month, beginning of the month, end of the month. And in between that, you're doing your weekly coaching meetings. So it's not like you're just ignoring opportunities. But the pipeline reviews for you to go through everything in that pipeline. They need to be prepared and you need to be prepared. So how do they need to be prepared? They need to know inside and out the prospects and the opportunities in the pipeline. And they need to have completed what they were supposed to complete last time. Obviously, if they're not doing that, they're not moving stuff through the pipeline. The next meeting, you start with reviewing the things that they were supposed to do. And you dive right into the opportunities. Are we bringing enough in? Are we meeting those metrics? Do we have a healthy pipeline? Let's get the bad stuff out. Let's put the good stuff in. Let's talk about next steps and strategize on opportunities. Ask the tough questions. Move the stuff through the pipeline. Discuss next steps on what's going in, what's happening with those opportunities. I can't stress enough the preparedness from both you as a manager and the rep. Don't just show up and say, okay, what did we talk about last time? It's all in the system. Should be. That's part of holding them accountable, right? Holding them accountable to putting the information in the system. Because as far as I'm concerned, if it's not in there, it doesn't exist. And then we're going to have a problem on our hands if something shows up, sold, and it wasn't in the pipeline. Okay, so let's talk about outcome. Because I think that's, what are we looking for here? At the end of the day, if you separate the pipeline from the forecast, and you don't spend every week in a sales meeting with your team talking about percentages and closing, can I move this from 85% to 90 or 90 to 95%? And you focus on the things that are important in the pipeline meeting. You separate the two, you focus on things that are important. You will definitely improve performance. You're going to improve performance significantly. Why? Because your sales reps are getting custom coaching. You're spending time with them on their deals, on their opportunities in the pipeline. You're holding them accountable to the activities that build a healthy pipeline. You're getting all the BS out of the pipeline, all the stuff that doesn't belong in there. And you're whittling down to the real good golden opportunities. Yes, especially in the beginning, the pipeline will all of a sudden shrink. And that makes people up the food chain nervous. Don't sweat it. If you're doing your job and you're doing it right, you're going to sell more. That's a given. They will sell more. It might be smaller pipeline, but they will sell more. Why? Because it's not filled with junk. It's filled with real opportunities that have a chance of closing. And you're showing progress week in and week out of the opportunities moving through the pipeline. Now, why do it twice a month? Why not do it every week? Because I think twice a month is enough. You have to give them some time to actually do what you talked about in the strategy. It's not going to move in a couple of days. You give them a week or so based on that big pipeline, and you can benchmark against the strategies. And you're always looking at the metrics, and go back to the data. You're looking at the metrics between each step. What is their rate of movement between this stage and this stage? Why is that important? Because it's going to tell you what you need to do to keep a healthy pipeline for them. It's going to tell you where you need to help them. Why are we doing all this? For consistent performance and growth. That's what we want. We want better, high-quality outcome. We want to sell more. And the only way you're going to sell more is to focus on the pipeline reviews. I'm going to tell you that this is more important than the forecast meeting. The forecast meeting is kind of what's done. It's what's done here in the pipeline, and it's going to tell you what you're going to sell. Yes, you're going to increase the accuracy of the forecast. And what does that do for you? It helps you predict growth, helps you strategize as a company, helps you see trend lines. All of that is valuable. But if you spend your time here and you do this right, in addition to the coaching, becoming as a manager, your primary job is to coach. If you kind of focus on that and you use this opportunity to coach and to move to have specific actionable items to move opportunities through the pipeline, you're doing something. Do the research on it. Google it. I will tell you that pipeline conversations, good ones, increase results by far. Okay, so I'm like off my soapbox. I'm not preaching anymore. Head on over to alignment-group.com/thefunnel and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook. My Twitter handle's @ShayJohnR. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to contact me, jshay@alignment-group.com. Questions, comments. I've had some good ones over the last few weeks. We've discussed some pretty good stuff. Website is alignment-group.com. Thank you for subscribing, and until next time, keep filling the funnel.